Hey everybody, welcome back to Ogre Speed Shop for part 2. The reassembly of the Tremec TKX. So, got Recycled Racing here with me, so we're gonna get this thing finished up. Yeah. So let's get into it. All right, this is what we're working with. A shaft. That's all that's left of the disassembly. So if you're here and you watched the first video, you know what we went through to get this apart. And is that thunder?
That's midgets, they're on the roof.
The midgets are on the roof? Uh-oh. All right, so anyways, what we took this all apart for was this piece right here. And that's our number 2 gear and 1-2 syncro. We got the old ones over here, which you saw us pull off. So now we just put it all back. So the first step we gotta do is we gotta get this number 2 gear and a 1-2 syncro assembly put onto this shaft. The way we're gonna do that, it's a real light press fit, but it still has a press fit. And what you do, this is something that you want to keep around. This is the inner bearing race for a conical bearing. And you use that to find out. Basically stick it on there and it'll press on the inner part of your syncro assembly. And it also fits down over the shaft to clear that area. So this syncro will go. The number 2 gear, it goes down around this needle bearing right here. So it's a slip fit, but I want to put it all together and press it on together because of this. Because those have to line up. Those little teeth have to line up inside there. Those grooves need to line up with these teeth right here. And it's easier to do it all one piece and try to do it while you're pressing it onto the shaft.
Like that.
It'll go. Really? Yep. So one of the things we're definitely going to do is this outer syncro. We're going to take that off. That way it's not interfering with anything. And set this up over here on the hydraulic press. So let me get you set up on the tripod shaft. Yep. All right, so we're going to put this on fully assembled like that. So the syncro, what are those called? The synchros. These are actually synchros. Yeah, so they don't fall out of there. We put that on our bearing inner race, like so. And we're going to stick it down the hole.
You can spill that. Yeah, really? And that's what we call luck. Some people play it off as skill. 90% of the time it's luck.
That was perfect. What are you talking about? So anyway, so we gotta get it, because it's got teeth on it. That's what we're pressing onto. So you gotta be careful putting it on there, but we got it started and lined up now. And we just happened to get lucky with the height where it needed to be. So it's literally like less than a 1/4 inch underneath there. Like I said, this is a real loose press, so it should go on real easy. If it doesn't go on real easy, make sure you stop before you do. Zoom you in a little bit. Okay, that's literally, I don't think you need to handle it, press it in. Yeah, see, that's how loose the press is. It's not super tight, so it's not like an ultra press fit. I just made that up. There's no such thing as an ultra press fit, but you know what I'm saying. It's not a super tight fit, so it should just go right on. Nice and easy. I'm gonna go down till I don't want that to bind, so it shouldn't go any further past. And it just stopped right there. So we don't want to press it too hard. And that is it for that syncro assembly and the number 2 gear.
Which is the main thing we did all this for, was to put that on.
Yep. So that was, okay, we're done. That's it. That's all we need to do. Yeah, but now we got to assemble the whole thing. So I just got to be careful taking it out of here because we don't want the syncro assembly to fall apart. So now we can come over to our little fixture here. Put her down inside there. And our last syncro ring, that's what they're called, synchro rings, I think. Don't judge me. So that part's done. So we are good on that. And the next thing that goes in there are going to be your little retainers like this. It's basically like I talked about one time, it being like a valve spring retainer. They go down the side there. You know, make it easier, leaving the synchro ring out. Y'all zoomed in enough to see? Doesn't look like it. All right, so those retainers go in there just like that, just like a valve retainer. And this is a retaining ring for it. So that'll all hold that in place now. Now will that synchro fit in there with that on there? Yeah, the synchro's got to be on there first.
Oh, we know it doesn't have to.
Yep. There we go. That'll give us more room. So the outer synchro ring needs to go in first because it's underneath these retainers. Then they can go in. Then this can go on. Just keep in mind this is still our first time doing this, and we're just trying to help everybody else that's never done this or, you know, might need a little tutorial. So work with us here.
And we tried to Google it or search it on YouTube. There wasn't any other people that had done a disassembly of this yet.
Okay, so get your retainer or your synchro rings in there. Then this final assembly ring that holds everything together. All right, cool. So we got the first part done. Now we got the all the rings in there. You see how it can't come out? Because this little ring retainer holds all that together. So, which is pretty cool, because a lot of times when you're trying to get these synchros in here, they just fall apart on you. So that makes it kind of nice that it's actually retained by something, even as little as that little ring. So we got the first, the second gear on there now, and the 1-2 synchro. I'm gonna go ahead and start putting the rest of the parts on. The first thing goes on this little spacer ring. So it goes right up against that retainer. The next part's going to be this little sleeve needle bearing.
I mean, it is broken, so I could do it that way.
Yeah, but why take the chance of spreading it too far? And the next thing that goes on is our
Here.
Yes, that's number one, right?
I haven't figured that out.
See, because I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think. We'll verify that and let everybody know, but I'm pretty sure that's.
These go down.
Yeah.
These holes.
See these little nubs right here? They have to go down into that hole right there. These holes right here. So there's 6 of them around there. They need to fit up. Just like that.
And then you can do.
This is where you can shift gears. So if you go all the way up with the synchros mesh, just pull it. You'd be surprised at how easily it goes in. So there's first. Now you go down, and that locks in second. Well, not quite, but yeah, it will. That's where the rotating mass comes into play, and there's second. So that's how those work. There's a lever on here that moves it back and forth on the housing, and that's how it all moves.
You mean a shift fork?
So that's, yes, a shift fork.
Gear shifting tool.
All right, so our next step, we got to put these retainers in here to hold this number one gear in place the way it's supposed to be. And problem is, it's held in by this ring. Normally, that's where it would go. That ring retains it. However, we have to press this on, and that ring will fall off because we got to flip this upside down, just like we did for the pressing on the synchro assembly. So I got bit by a horsefly, so it's itchy. And this ring's got to be pressed on. So for the same way we did the synchro, we're going to be pressing this on using this bearing race, just like we did before. But we have to keep this in place. And the way we're going to do that You need 2 hands. That's a hand.
Two hands.
2 hands. We're gonna use a zip tie to put it on there, to hold it on there, because we can get it off once. We can get it off once we're done pressing it on.
And that's been an Ogre Speed Shop zip tie moment.
We're gonna get copyrighted by David Freiberger.
David Freiberger doesn't watch our crap. We're not that cool and mainstream.
All right, so our next step is gonna be moving over to the press again and getting this thing pressed on. This is a harder press, so we gotta make sure we get it lined up nice and even so it doesn't like gall anything when we're doing it. I'm gonna get this in here and get it ready to press on that shoulder right there. If you ever assembled axle bearings, it's kind of the same thing.
What kind
Or
of
a wedding ring on an axle bearing. Here we go. Oh wow, it's sliding on real easy. That's good. I like that. And we want to watch this because we want to make sure it doesn't go press in too far. So I think we're good right there. We'll check it, pull it out and check it. Excuse me. So I don't know if it actually stops itself or not, but we got that down perfect. It's level with the ledge right there. So we are good to go on that. All right, so we're gonna, now we got that sleeve on there. And it's like a spacer, and it's actually a retainer, a spacer or sleeve for this bearing right here. And so we got the retainer in there for the gear. Now this ring needs to go on there. We took the zip tie off. That's what we use for maintaining it and retaining it in there. So now we're gonna put the rest of the stuff on here, and that's that retainer ring right there. That holds those, like I said, the valve retainer style things on there. Next thing's gonna be the bearing. Yeah, there you go. So we're good on that. Okay, so next piece that needs to be pressed on is that gear right there. All right, so the next part we gotta do is we gotta press this on. We put the bearing on there, you saw. This thing's gotta be pressed on. This is your 5th gear reverse gearing that is activated by these gears that are in or above the housing. And we'll get to all that when we get to it. But yep, that's
This goes with the little nub facing down and it rides on that
yep.
bearing thing we just placed. Just pressed on there.
All right, so we gotta do the same thing we just did and press this thing on. You just gotta be mindful of this bearing right here because it will slide off. See, it moves on there. That's a slip fit.
I wish we still lived in the same town, man. I would definitely want to try your rims on my car. See how this other thing's look.
Gotcha!
It doesn't look bad though with that. What series is that? 40 series size?
Yeah, they're 245 40s.
It's 245s?
Yeah. Well, remember when we thought 245 50s on a Firebird 16, like a 3rd gen Firebird was a big tire?
Yeah. And 255 is the max.
Another thing you want to keep around your press is these extensions so you can press things on from different levels without having to pump it all the way down or all the way up. All right, so we got that pressed on. That should be the last thing we need to press on. Now we got this gear pressed on there. We have 2 retainers, just a split retainer, just like those the other ones below. So they go on next. And then a retaining ring. Take it off and show the cup. See how it's like cupped on the inside? So that's what's retaining those split rings. Goes down over and holds it in place. Now it can't move. Now the last thing there is the snap ring. That's got to go down over and fit into that groove right there and hold everything together. Even though this is pressed in and that's pretty much holding it, this is a secondary measure in case for whatever reason that spins or slips off of there. So let's get that snap ring on there. And the snap ring is on. Use these snap ring pliers to bring it down over, and I forgot to hit record, but we might have it recorded there, so.
Nope.
No? No, we just started it, okay. So snap ring's on, we're tight now, and that is it for this until we put it back in the housing. And what's left on here is this gear right here, your speedo gear, and that's it. So getting real close to actually it's time to put it back in the housing. All right, so the last thing we need to do for the shaft here is put on our number 3 third gear. Okay, the next thing we gotta do is put on our third gear and the third gear synchro assembly, the 3/4 synchro assembly. So first another needle bearing, sleeve needle bearing.
Just gonna do assembly.
Okay, so make sure that center syncro, the center piece of the syncro is all the way down because this snap ring needs to go on there. So let's get the snap ring on now. So we're gonna put the snap ring down on top of there.
Sure, when you do that, just stick your tongue out like Jason does every time.
Yep. It's not all the way yet. It's just
Just put your tongue back in
there. I don't think they can even see it on my camera anyways.
You can on this one.
All right, so that completes that part of this assembly. We have the synchro rings that need to go back on. And then these little, we got a bearing and a shemish, what?
I think it's a thrust washer.
Thrust washer, that's the word I was looking for. And that goes on like that, and that'll go into the case once we get it all together. All right, we're on the next day of this assembly for the transmission for the TKX. We've got the stand set up with the input shaft in there, in its bearing, and that's just basically holding it in place. And I kind of pre-staged a little bit just so it makes better video here. But we got it set up to where when we put the case down over top the input shaft, it'll be at the right height in order to put the rest of these pieces in. So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is set this race inside the base of the front. This is the actual front of the transmission. And it goes with the conical side facing down. And there's a little stop right there that it'll stop at. Just got to be real careful. You don't want it to get crooked in there. So you slide it down in until it stops right about there.
Twisting helps.
Yeah, twisting it in helps a lot. So we're going to go ahead and flip this over and put it on the stand. Now we can see that the bearing race is in there now. So we're going to put the input shaft in now. Brian's going to go ahead and do that.
There's the bearing that's going to ride in there.
That's not the input shaft, bro.
It is not the input shaft. I'm just going to stick stuff in there till it fits. That's the bearing.
That's the bearing that rides in there. All right, so we got that in there now. The next step is going to be putting this, what do we call this shaft the other day?
Secondary shaft?
It's a secondary shaft, but there's another name for it.
Number 2 shaft?
Eh.
The other shaft?
If we come up with it, we'll let you know. So when we put this in there, we have to tilt the pinion a little bit this way to get it up underneath these teeth that go for they're part of the synchro assembly. So we got to do that now. Okay, so I'm gonna tip the pinion this way, or the input this way, so we can get that gear down underneath these teeth. That's what I'm trying to say. So we got that nice and smooth in there. The bearing's down in its race the way it's supposed to be. And now we got to move on to this, which is going to be the much harder part because we have to align it with the shift forks, the reverse lever, and there's 2 shift forks. So we have to get all that to line up with those holes down there and that hole right there. Well, no, that hole's for the actual reverse. More stuff over there that we'll get to later. But we have to get all this stuff lined up. Pretty sure this can go on after. This is where it gets kind of difficult because you got to get these things to line up. And you see that it's got the gear has little slots in it where the teeth go.
Kind of twist it and they'll drop down in there. Like so.
And it should just slide around that one.
I'd say it should just, because that's when it should does not.
Put the, remember this one has the ball and spring on the inside?
Don't forget the ball and spring on the inside.
Yeah.
We just did that to show you that.
So this is what we're talking about as far as this ball and spring. And these levers have these little teeth cut out in them.
Second your shaft back a little bit.
Yep. So we got to pull it all out again, but this is what happens. Like I said, this is the first time we've done this, so we got to get one of these and a spring installed in that little hole right there all the way through to the other side. See it down inside there? Yeah, let me see it right here. I'm gonna push it from this side. Okay. So now the fun part's gonna be getting the shaft to go in that. So I'm gonna have to push on that spring-loaded ball and sleeve assembly while while we get the gears down in there, get the shaft to go down in there. At least there's a pretty good sized chamfer on that shaft, so hopefully it should go pretty easily. Should. So I'm gonna need both. I'm gonna need both hands for this. So put you back on the stand. So we're gonna try this again, and if you look right here on the other shift fork lever, there's actually a groove right there that this sits in, so that helps you line it up. So now we get to do the compression with the ball and the spring again for this one. This one's on the outside, so we don't have to worry about getting that one to pop through the ball until we put it back in, which is that little container thing over there. So we put that back in, it goes on the outside of that rod, not on the inside, so should be pretty easy now. Why do I keep saying that?
Stop.
All right.
You saying that's why we keep having to take this out.
No, it's just you. Let's go this way a little bit. Just not. There it goes. Yeah. It's in. So you're fighting it. It's already in.
Hold on. I can't drop this because that means this needs to go down.
Yeah, I got this one.
Oh, I got you.
Push it in. Ready? Just give it a little tap. A little more. Get that going.
That's what I'm saying. Oh. Because we're not engaged down all the way.
There we go. That's lined up now.
That is, but this isn't. So I can still spring an input shaft. There we go.
There it
So
goes.
the problem was the input shaft in the bottom just needs to be twisted a little bit because these two shafts can line up. And as you hear, it's dropping into place as I twist it.
Okay, now everything's in. It's like we said, it's a pain in the butt, but just gotta be patient with it. And if we can do it, because I've got the patience of a gnat, and
I am an out.
and he is a gnat. Yeah. All right, so we got those in. So the last thing to do is put the reverse lever in. And just slide it in there. All right. Okay, so the next thing we got to put in is the shift lever. That protrusion right there, it goes inside that fork. So yeah, there you go.
Getting it there is.
Okay, so now we need the pin, the big old pin, but we need sealant still.
Didn't they go the other way?
No?
Oh, like that.
Bring it up a little bit. I needed 2 hands again. I had to shut you off, but this pin right here screws in and slides on that lever down there. And that lever for the reverse, this lever right here for the reverse, goes around that pin down there on the lever itself. So that right there, that hole right there is for your reverse light. We're not worried about that right now. Okay, so the next part that goes in is our reverse idler assembly. Yeah. Okay, so back to the reverse idler. It goes down in that slot right there and bolts in from the side over here.
We probably should make some thread locker.
Oh yeah, we need thread sealer for that too. So we got to run to the town to get thread locker
Let's drive
or
instead.
thread sealer, huh?
Let's drive instead. I don't want to run.
Ah, you're such a you're so funny. So, all right, so that's held in place at least. All right, so we will be back once we get back from town. All right, we're back from town, and we got some thread sealer for this bolt right here, and for some of the other plugs that we got to use. And we're using, yeah, that stuff.
Didn't work.
Try to throw it at it, but guess you got to put it on there. So we also got to do some, we're going to put some Loctite on the screw that holds this fixture in as well. So we're going to do that right now, and we'll come back once that's done. So you look right here, this is the bolt that actually holds this shaft in, and it screws directly to the shaft. So there's a threaded hole in the shaft itself. All right, so the torque spec on this is 15 to 20 foot-pounds. All right, so just to recap, the retaining bolt here for the reverse 5th gear shaft is 15 to 20 foot-pounds.
15 to 25.
15 to 25 foot-pounds. And the retainer bolt for the shift lever, which is also for the reverse stuff, I believe. That was
25 to 40 foot-pounds.
25 to 40 foot-pounds. So nice wide range for some reason on torque specs. But as long as you get it close, the original marks are still there from when it was built. So we're pretty close. I'm fine. All right, so the next thing that needs to be done, be installed, is this pivot, what is it called?
Pivot pin snap ring.
Pivot pin snap ring. And it goes right down there on that little mushroom shaped thing on that lever pin.
Hold on.
Go.
Next step is install detent plunger spring and nut on either side of main case. Torque to 15 to 25 foot-pounds.
So that's these little ball things with the sleeves. They go on each side with a spring. Oops. And then held in with a plug.
It's like sour cream. A dollop will do you.
That's a T30, I believe, right? There you go. Those are torqued to what again?
15 to 25 pound-feet. I think there's witness marks in there. You already put it in there?
That was on the inside, remember?
Oh, that's right. Okay, so if you're following the PDF instructions, it tells you to install the pivot pin into the selector, which is this guy, and torque it. It also has you torque down the shaft assembly. That's great. When you do that though, it locks in this detent rail so that it doesn't have any motion front and back, which makes it really hard to get this arm, which has a locking lug on there. Well, not locking, but it has a lug that slides in that path. It gets it hard to move it in there.
And that's part of the shift. That's the shift lever assembly, the shift fork assembly for your reverse and 5th.
When we had taken it apart, we had this removed, and it allowed us a little bit of wiggle room here to just kind of pop it out and get it out. So what we did was the same thing. We just reversed that. We untorqued this, moved it out, or removed it, and that allowed us to play with the shifter arm to get this shifter arm in this hole, and then you can just drop your assembly down in there. And
You can show, go ahead and show them, yeah. Pull it out and show them.
This arm here just kind of rotates and then pulls up, and that moves that nub into this track. This assembly here has,
The whole thing.
underneath here, there is a, I guess that'd be like a thrust washer that sits on that. That goes here, not on top, so that'll set your spacing right. And then this little guy gets captured in the gear here. You just gotta align the stars here, if you will. And then you can drop this little guy back in there. But at the same time, it's gonna line up in the hole in the bottom of the case. This one's not, there it goes.
There it goes. And you twist it counterclockwise to lock it into place. It doesn't like lock into place, it just rides in there. And this pin up here will hold it in place once we get the case cover on.
It's just a whole lot of lining things up, and these videos really help with seeing what goes where.
All right, it's time to install the top plate now. You gotta be careful, flip it over, show that, gotta make sure that doesn't fall down. That gonna end up right here, but it has to be clocked because it has a little groove right there that little tab fits into. The oil seems to be holding it pretty good on there, so you just gotta carefully put it down over all the shafts.
I'm gonna slowly pull out my finger. You got that gasket?
Yep. That's cool. And that gap is because we're not high enough up on the plate.
Okay, so going back on here, there's two little shims on the bottom side of here, but you gotta make sure that you're getting lined up centered in here, while also underneath holding this, so that it centers up on this hole, stays in the groove, and comes down. You're gonna pinch your finger as you're coming down slowly to make sure that all these drop down evenly, and then, cross your arms down the top. Okay, next step is to install shift rail interlock pins, 3 pieces. So you got the little guy, 2 big guys. The little guy actually goes in between there, in that hole, in the center rail, and these 2 guys drop in between there, like so.
In the block.
And then the hold down block. Goes like that.
And that's it for that part.
Step is install 5th gear bearing and thrust washer to cluster shaft. There's a little groove in here. See that? There's a ball on that side. I'm just gonna line the groove up with the ball. That's gonna pop in right there. Next step's gonna be to bolt down the intermediate plate, 15 to 25 foot-pounds. So these guys, put some sealant on them.
Yeah, definitely put sealant on them.
And then 15 to 25 foot.
Click. Click.
Your bearing to cluster shaft. It's going to be this little guy. 5th gear synchronizer and fork on the cluster shaft, and then slide 5th gear fork onto 5th gear reverse rail upon install. So basically we're going to put all this stuff on here. Careful to line up both the clutch fork and kind of work that down. And then you kind of move this in the fork. You're going to have to twist this top piece here to get on the groove. So we installed this assembly on, and the inner and outer blocking rings were put in. This upper gear here has teeth on the inside. And this shaft has splines on it, so it was a little bit tough to get on. I believe it's designed so that when you put this locking nut on, it helps drive that down. We lightly tapped it into place. The next step here is going to be installing that roll pin, so we verified that this is at the right height, and then we can still get the roll pin in, because this assembly does move up and down. So now we can put this locking nut on. It was stake with a little indent over here to help, I don't know, strafe, I don't know what you call it. Where they knocked it in so it can't unscrew itself.
Yeah.
So we undid that to get it off. We're going to tighten it back up, and this should, the way these line up,
We
be
will
just
restake
about
it, so.
in position, and then we'll restake it in that same spot. One little, two little, three little gear teeth, four little, five little, six little gear teeth, seven little, eight little, nine little gear teeth. He's gonna scrape that nut. Okay, now you gotta say it.
That ain't going nowhere. Okay, roll pin.
Let me hold it. That looks so unprofessional and awkward. Hold on.
Is it lined up?
It is now. So that's what that was doing. Pretty good.
You use a center or a roll pin punch to, so it's below the surface of it.
Wait, are you using a roll pin punch to punch a roll pin?
I'm using a roll pin punch, an actual roll pin. See the little nipple on the back, on the end of it? That's to hold the roll pin together.
Well, that page is done. So now we can install the mechanical speedo gear with detent ball to main shaft. Note, Ford equals 12 tooth, GM equals 17 tooth. We are 17 tooth. The little detent balls are going to go in here.
What's the metal one?
The metal one shall go on the bottom.
It's a speed sensor.
Yeah, one is a, so that's the,
This is electronic, this
Yep.
is mechanical.
so this is the sender basically for the electronic speedo that sits like here. And this one is for the mechanical, obviously. This has both options in the tail case.
These have little tiny ball bearings.
There's also a
A
slot.
slot. So, well, see, these are really close tolerance freaking fits on these things. And that's all there is to that. And one more ball bearing, a little bigger than the previous one, to get the mechanical speedo gear on there.
Now to hold that on, there was a snap ring over here. There it is. Hold that on, we're going to put a snap ring on right here in this groove. Yeah. Just to keep them from walking back up off what we just did. So to put the snap ring on, are you using snap ring pliers?
I am using snap ring pliers to put the snap ring
It's
on.
crazy when people use the right tools.
And these are actually special ones designed for the bigger snap rings, for like transmissions and axles and stuff. So
next step, we're going to lay the transmission flat on the bench and install the rear housing and shift lugs together onto the transmission. So that means those three little lugs that go on here are going to be inside the case floating, and we're going to have to get them on there.
Yep.
So let's clear this workbench and get that set up.
So the next thing we're going to do is put the bearing retainer plate on. And you can see it's got a slot in it. That's orientated towards the top here where the oil is going to come through to lube it. And we're going to put a little bit of RTV around it. This is actual like transmission RTV just to reseal it. And explain those shims.
These are thrust washers. It's needed to set the gap to have the thrust on the bearing here. They called this out in this kit. I think we talked about that earlier. So we're going to make sure we put those back on and install and then seal the bolts and should do it.
Torque spec for the bearing retainer plate. 12 to 16 foot-pounds, or pound-feet as it said there.
Which one is it?
Well, they let you have a variety apparently, so it's not specific, somewhere in there.
Not a line guy.
All right, that's simple. The bearing retainer is on. So now we can concentrate on the back of the transmission and getting the housing back on there. That's really the last thing we have to do, but it's also going to be one of the more painful things to do. I was gonna say the pain in the A thing, but I'm trying to keep it, you know, nice for the family. But you have to get these lugs back on there for the shifters. And that's gonna be the fun part, getting those lined up and pinned properly. The good thing is though, on a T56, there's a detent block underneath those, so you have to get the ball stuck in there with a spring and pin it. It's only one though. We got 3 of them to do on this.
Tell me more about the T56.
It's right over there in the corner, in pieces, just like it has been for the last 10 years. Because parts are expensive. They're like $2 grand for everything. God dang it! Why does it keep doing that?
It's not straight.
It was also telling me that was the wrong way because there's grease on the top of that, and that had grease on the top of it. Not that it matters, there's both their mirror images. Let's get that, yeah, let's just take it off there. Okay. Put this a little bit closer so you can kind of see what we're doing here. So each one of these lugs needs to go on here, but it has to wrap around that little lever inside there, which is what shifts everything. So we need to get it, have to back it off a little bit. We have to get these all on at the same time.
Right there-ish.
Right there-ish. Oh, good. I think so.
Kind of went quicker than I thought it was going.
I see a hole. I see a hole.
Let me get.
It's lightly tightened. Okay, we got the blocks all in there where they're supposed to be. We just got to get the roll pins. Where's the hole for that?
That one's way back.
Okay, so we're going to go back a little bit. The shifter, oh, there we go. Let me start with that one. We got the roll pins. So I use my roll pin punches. Definitely want this one flush because the tolerance up top here is pretty close. There it goes. You got it? Okay, let me see. One last one. Cool. That was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Next thing I do is take some of this grease and put some dollops on top. I think it's to prevent contact with the top of this cover. It was like that when I pulled it off, so I shall repeat it. Alright, so if we just run some of this. When you're down to like 5, we just gotta use the pinky.
Get the rag stuck in it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's okay, we only have to move it a little bit.
Comes with a rag. Now, tighten them. Extension housing?
Huh?
Would that be the extension housing?
Yes.
24 to 30 foot-pounds.
24 to 30 foot-pounds. We got 2 more at the bottom. If we can flip it this way, toward me.
These casting marks always get me because I think they're cracks until I look at it.
Uh-huh. There we go. What's that?
Give me some of that lube.
Got the red stuff. If you want to keep it red.
So I'm gonna come out 3 or 4 more times in a row.
Too much grease?
Maybe.
Oh, that's because was that down roll? Yeah, pull it out. I think it's got too much grease in it. Gasket.
Gasket.
Scalpel.
I don't have one. Got some bolts though.
Can't believe the grease was prevented from going down that far.
Oh, I mean, that's
Although the
hydraulic.
yeah, it's true.
A what millimeter? 10 millimeter. How do you have
3/8?
one? How did you have one and not lose it?
Well, if you lose it, what was it? It's a Harbor Freight that sells the kit that has a whole bunch of different ones in it.
Until you find it, because it's in your garage somewhere. Or if you buy a new one, that's when the old one will show up right after that.
Yep. That's what happened with my 916s. Because, yeah, I worked on American cars, so that SAE bolt still, classics. All right, we got to test it now.
All right. You make noises?
You go ahead and make noises. First, it's spinning in reverse. Second. We'll win the second really smooth. We fixed it.
I RPM matched it.
Third, good. Fourth, good.
Beads on this clutch.
Fifth, good. They all spin. Now reverse. It's going backwards. Woohoo! Well, the true test, though, is going to be once it's in the car, because you really don't know if you fix the syncro. It shut off.
Yeah, I think it.
Well, mine's still going, so I will share. Because you really won't know until you drive the car whether or not the syncro is fixed. But judging by the old syncro, if it is hot, it's been burned, and half of it's missing, like we showed you in the video, the first video, it definitely needed to be replaced. So, and well, like I said, you won't know until it's actually run if it took care of the problem. But we got it all back together. We got that second gear replaced, got the second gear or the 1-2 syncro replaced, and everything spins freely. So everything's good. And I hope this helped somebody, because yeah, sometimes you just gotta jump in and do it, you know. All right, so that'll finish up this video on reassembling the T56, or I'm sorry. Yep, screwed that one up. Reassembling the Tremec TKX. So
there is a PDF available that is good for disassembly and reassembly. However, depending on which revision of transmission you have, your shaft may vary. There were some steps in here that we couldn't exactly follow 100%. Pictures were good though, and it showed what pieces went where, so we just kind of adapted, overcame, and moved around to where we needed to be. All in all though, their disassembly or the service manual is pretty good. It's got all your torque specs, required tools, part numbers, and all that kind of stuff that you would need. So definitely check that out if you're thinking about doing this. And if you're thinking about doing this, it's not that bad. I didn't think that it was going to be something that I could tackle myself. So I reached out to Jason. We did this as a joint venture, and it's not that bad. As long as you have a couple extra tools and a press, you know, a couple guys in their garage can knock this out. Just don't do crazy burnouts and break your transmission.
all right, so if you want to see his video, check out
Cycle Racing. And for his video, check out
Over Speed Shop.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Check the other guys' channel out. Help us grow. And we'll see you next time.
Fire! Fire!
Did real good. Car ran real good. I just wake up and piss excellence, and I want to go fast.
If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah, was high when I said that.